What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TOJ Talks. I'm your host, Will Parkinson, at WillPod11 on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. All 32 Pod, TOJ Pod as well. Saturday before the NFL Combine, things have been pretty quiet this week on the Jets front. Obviously, we talked a little Justin Fields, a little Cam Ward. We'll do a little bit more of that today, on the pod, and then just talk about some of the guys I'm most looking forward to seeing, out in Indy. We'll have a big Badlands contingent there, which would be super exciting. Paul and Dan getting in their first and second combine, respectively. Obviously, Connor will be there as well. Year 4 already in Indy, which is pretty crazy to think about. From my perspective, we got Aaron Rodgers telling what team he wants to go to, which was a team that wants him and is good. So that's all the news on Aaron Rodgers. We don't have to talk too much about that. I want to kind of just start here and just finish up the convo on Justin Fields because me and Paul talked about it on the TOJ pod, I believe, on Wednesday or Thursday, and it's a name we've thrown around for upwards of about 10 weeks now, probably since the Rams game-ish. Was a name that, hey, if Rodgers isn't back, and it looked like he wasn't going to be back for a long time, that Fields was a name you might be looking at as a guy who could fill that gap of a bridge quarterback with higher upside. And yeah, the floor is not particularly high, but it's high enough, and you get what you get offered in the run game, what you get offered in some of the vertical passing game. Again, he's not going to be precision Drew Brees and Peyton Manning throwing 70% completions and a ton of check with me's over the line of scrimmage and and darting different dig routes and hole shots and things like that. But he can throw the football. He's got good chemistry, obviously, with Garrett. Paul mentioned some of the numbers with Ruckert and Garrett in college, and obviously guys like Olave had a really nice years. Not the infamous Clemson throw with the broken ribs for Fields. So again, and the running game is special with him. So at least offers you some upside. As a player that the Jets will have interest in if he gets out of Pittsburgh. There's no doubt about it, whether it's one for 10, 12 and a half million, 4.5 million guaranteed, a lot of incentives based on how many games he plays, if he goes to the playoffs, all these different things is probably what you're looking at. Maybe the Jets make it a 2 for 20, 2 for 25, similar to what Minshew got a year ago, and hope, hey, if he's good enough, he could be our bridge guy in 26. Tyrod will walk. He's our bridge guy, and we draft our rookie, and that rookie takes over for Fields. Who knows? Again, the argument for Fields, the running game, the improvement, similar organization, with the Steelers last year where he had some success. And you're hoping that, again, still a younger kid, has chemistry, and can he do a similar thing to what Geno, Baker, Darnold, et cetera, have done, where rough organization, take some time, go to a good organization, sit, and then get your chance to play. We'll see on that one. So that's kind of all really on the Fields front. There's not really much more to talk about there. I want to just talk a little bit more about the Cam Awards. Will the Jets trade up? Will they? Won't they? I think the Jets are doing a lot of homework on Cam Ward. I think they're doing a lot of homework on a lot of these quarterbacks. There's no question about it. They need a quarterback. That's not some breaking news or anything like that. But yeah, of course they're doing a homework on Cam Ward. They'll do homework on him this week, upcoming when they're in Indy, and they'll get to meet with Cam Ward because Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji found the combine to be something that they need to be at, which is an adult decision. And it's something that's very nice to see the Jets make the adult decision, not go play golf, not go because their mentor and Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay don't go all the time. Guys who have won Super Bowls or who have been assistant coaches and gotten Super Bowls, head coaches that gotten Super Bowls. I still think no matter who it is, that the combine is extremely beneficial to get extra time with these prospects around the league, meet with different coaches. That's how you build your network as a staff, and doing these different things at these league events is super important in my opinion. And the Jets will be there. They get to talk to Cam Ward and others. I think the Cam Ward discussion gets a lot more interesting if he falls to 2, to 3, to 4, to 5, wherever it may be. Do I think he'll do that? And at this point, I still think he'll go 1 to somebody, whether that be Tennessee or a different team. But again, we'll learn more next week and, being in Indy. But if Tennessee says, hey, we're going to go Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, the Browns say we'll take whoever the other guy is, or they want to trade out, does the conversation go to go to 2 1s and a 3 and a 5? I'm trading up at that point if Cam Ward's your guy, because, you're giving up next year's 1, but you're giving up some ancillary capital that, of course you don't want to lose those picks, but, you'd still maintain, hey, we still have our second next year and we still have our second and our fourth. So we still, have some pieces to maneuver, and hey, we keep our second this year and we still can add a right tackle, an edge rusher, a receiver, a corner, whatever it may be in round 2, defensive tackle, whoever. So I think the conversation, again, if he gets to 2, gets to 3, is there a different conversation? Do the Giants and Brown to make decisions on quarterback that are, and this is obviously, again, pending Tennessee doesn't just take them because they could and very well probably should. But if they don't, the Giants go get Matt Stafford. The Giants take Sam Darnold. Do they go, with a different route? Do they go Russell Wilson and try to short-term fix this thing and keep their jobs? Who knows? And again, as much as we'll find out, I think there's just a conversation to be had where Cam checks all the boxes of the Parcells kind of checklist for who you would draft as a franchise quarterback, and it would certainly bring some excitement and entertainment to this Jets quarterback. You'd feel really optimistic about the Jets quarterback situation because, hey, we have this new offensive staff, and the roster is much better than it's been when the Jets have drafted rookie quarterbacks in the past. It would look a lot more, maybe not to the extent of 2009, but it at least would be a lot closer to that than it would have been to 2018 or 2021 when they drafted Sam and Zach respectively. So we'll see on that one. But again, I don't think it's a non-zero chance. But I think that Field, Tyrod, those are the type of names you're probably looking at. Kirk, Cooper, like those are more realistic at this point. But again, I think they'll call on a lot of these veteran names, and I think they'll certainly call and see what it costs to trade up for Cam Ward and get a better feel of what things could potentially look like should he fall to 2, 3, 4, 5, or anywhere in that range. In terms of guys I'm looking forward to seeing at the Combine, I touched on a few of these names on the midweek pod. I'll kind of reiterate. I think the two guys who everyone knows I've been extremely high on, and I do think there's a bit of projection with both players for sure, but Shamar Stewart and Jalen Walker have a chance to have monster weeks and be guys that, whether you like them or not, and not everybody does, and that's okay. I think the league is extremely high on both players. From everyone I've talked to, they are extremely high on both. Shamar Stewart, while he has 4.5 sacks throughout 3 years in college, 100% a concern, no doubt about it. The motor is not a question. The athletic ability is not a question. Where do you play him? I think he's an edge rusher, but the fact that he has versatility to play inside, maybe on more passing downs to get a better opportunity to rush. Does he kind of play that JFM-ish role? Sure, but he's like 6 times of a turbo engine of JFM in terms of the way he's able to bend and do these different things. Now, JFM was an absolute fucking dog in the run game and could talk shit better than anybody. So there's that level. And Shamar Stewart, we'll see if he has that dog in him in terms of that type of player. But he's going to likely weigh in somewhere between 281 and 291. He's going to probably run 4.48, 4.49 in the 40. He's going to jump out of the gym. He has 34.5-inch arms. He's built like a mega truck. And Danielle Hunter had 4.5 sacks in 3 years at LSU. Danielle Hunter's been paid 3 separate times. He's one of the top 7 best edge rushers in the NFL, and every year just cranks out 12 to 15 sacks. So we've seen examples of this before. Again, Trayvon Walker is the easy one. Everyone's going to point to more recently. Danielle Hunter, to me, might be a better example of a guy who, big-time program, all of the film was there. It's like, why is this guy not getting sacks? And again, Shamar was great in the run game and made a lot of plays in the pass game, a lot of almost plays. But we saw a guy even in Jared Verse last year who comes out, obviously highly productive in college, not the same kind of eval, but comes to the NFL and has like 84, 85 pressures as a rookie. He had 4.5 sacks because he could not finish plays. And sometimes it's about, we look back at Bryce Huff a couple of years ago, a guy who ton of pressures, couldn't finish plays, and then light switch flips, and the next year has 10 plus sacks and is able to finish plays. So again, a lot of projection with Shamar Stewart for sure. And I'm not advocating he's got to be the pick at 7 or anything like that. What I am telling you is a guy who you might see more consistently mocked to the Jets at 7 because the league's high on him and he's going to test out of the gym. I don't know. I don't know this hand up. I don't know if anyone 290 pounds has ever run in the 4.4s. He's got a chance to do it. And if he does that at 6'6", 290, 285, with those arms, that explosiveness, and that speed, it's going to be really hard for any team in the league to say no to Shamar Stewart. So, again, just a name to watch. I've talked about him a little bit. I won't talk too much on Jalen Walker. Everyone knows how I feel about the player. Look, I think if he measures in at 6'2", 245, which is probably what I think he'll roughly measure in at, he's going to test out of the gym, and at that size, you'd feel pretty good about playing him kind of full-time at edge. Again, is he Shamar Stewart, who also is an edge at 6'6", 290? No, they're very different players. But Walker, I think, could be a special player in this league. Again, I understand there's, hey, what position is he? I don't know. He's a really, really goddamn good football player and a really good defensive coach, which we think Aaron Glenn is and Steve Wilkes is. Should be able to find a role where, hey, maybe he's an edge, 2 downs and 1 down, he's a linebacker. Hey, in this personnel, we can move him around the formation and do different stunts and blitzes with him and Quincy. And you don't know who's coming on any different plays. Is it Quincy? Is it Jalen Walker? And we got our base down. He's a part of our base 4 front, or maybe he's not. Maybe he's a guy who plays some off-ball linebacker at times early in games, and then when they need to rush the passer, he's a full-time edge. Like, there's a lot of different ways you could maneuver him. I just think that he's going to be a guy that we'll see, test quite well. And again, measurements will be key there. The offensive tackles, I'm interested to see, obviously, arm length on guys like Will Campbell, guys like Kelvin Banks, and things like that. Josh Simmons, like, what's the deal with the knee? Because I don't think the Jets would take him at 7, obviously, but if they trade it back, hey, I know you're left tackle, but could you play right tackle? And like, there's at least those conversations you might be interested in having, depending on what you think on Morgan Moses. Again, Armand Membu, I think maybe more in a trade back. I'm not sure I want to take a guy like that at 7. It's a little bit projection. Kind of bailed last minute on the Senior Bowl was a little weird and stuff like that. But all things considered, again, a really good, impressive prospect. And again, if the Jets took him at 7 and one of these offensive linemen, Campbell, I wouldn't take Banks at 7 personally, but I know a lot of people are high on him. So I would understand it. Again, hey, we're just going to solidify, be awesome up front for a long time. And that's going to be our thing. Other guys that I think have a chance to make an impact. Will Johnson, I know not necessarily be like the number one preference at 7, maybe in a trade back, or hey, maybe they, the Glenn connection of he played corner, so we're just going to all assume he's going to take a fucking corner at 7. Will Johnson needs to run the 4-4s. There's some question around long speed with him. Is he kind of more of a zone squat corner that can make plays on the ball? And he's a huge playmaker, no doubt. The sophomore tape's awesome. Had turf toe all year, pretty bad, and obviously ended up missing the end of the year. I just wonder, he needs to run, doesn't need to be a 4-2 guy, but he needs to be, I think there was questions around Sauce with this too coming out. Just be fast enough for your size and what your tape says that we feel like you can consistently compete at the next level from a long-term speed perspective. Sauce did that. I think Sauce ran the 4.45, 4.46, whatever it was. Maybe it ended up being 4.48 official, but if Will Johnson runs in a similar time, like, he's going to go in the top 15 likely. Again, the turf toe totally ruined his junior year. And, again, guys like Mason Graham, people like that, measurements you want to see is this guy really 320? Is he 305 and was listed at 320? Was he 340 and really listed at 320? Like, obviously that's very unlikely. My point being, like, you just want to see where these guys measure out. And again, these weights can be a little fugazi one way or another, 5-10 pounds, but you want to see arm length. You want to see, for these tackles and these edge rushers and defensive linemen, you want to see long speed and short agility, quickness for these receivers, running backs. Tyler Warren's another name who, look, I'll say this about Warren. I've been pretty adamant that I think he's not going to test as well as people think he is. I think he's an awesome football player. The tape is really good. If the Jets took him at 7, I get it. You want to take a playmaker, you think the tape's awesome. Hey, the ceiling might not be Brock Bowers 120 catches a year, but maybe he's 75 for 800 and 8 touchdowns a year, really good blocker. And like, you'd take that. That'd be awesome. I think it'll cool off a little bit, at least for a week or two post combine, if he runs to where I think he's going to run, which is not going to be awesome. It's going to be like 4.69 to 4.78, like somewhere in that range where you go, oh, like, hey, he's 260 and he's 6'6", so like I really don't care that much. But again, it's just something to monitor that, hey, if maybe he tests awesome. Maybe I'm totally off, but I have a feeling he's going to test more like a guy who's an average athlete that's an amazing football player. And it doesn't really matter if you're the Jets because you'd like to take the playmaker like that. Again, what's Ted McMillan going to run? We'll see. Again, a bigger guy. Is he going to run the 4.4? Like, where is he going to end up? That'll be an interesting one. The quarterbacks, I think most of them will throw that matter. Again, you like to see Cam Moore throw. I don't know if he will. I doubt it, but maybe. We never know with him and Shador. It's kind of who knows. They obviously kind of both ended up at Shrine and didn't do anything but interview, which was kind of a sham. But again, is what it is. I mentioned this on Thursday's pod. Tyler Shook. I'd like to see Tyler Shook throw because he's got a cannon and he's a guy who could have that kind of Joe Milton pop of like, oh wow, like there's some flaws here. He's an older prospect, and you know, I it doesn't really matter how hard you throw the football if you can't make the small things happen, which I think Shook can. But he's a guy who's a chance to impress, during Combine Week as well. A couple other names here to just kind of keep your eye on. I'd like to see what Jack Bech runs. He had an amazing Senior Bowl week. Really good player. Obviously, everyone knows the story. If he's there at 42, I'd have a hard time passing him up. I just am curious what he's going to run because he's a guy who played faster, I think, on tape and played faster in person than maybe you'd expect at that size. I just care, is he going to be a 4.56 guy or is he a 4.49 guy? Like, again, seems like a minute detail, but those things do matter, obviously, in the long run. I don't think he can afford to really be a 4.6 plus guy. Like Keon Coleman, I think last year was 4.61. He ended up going still top of round 2, but we saw you just have trouble getting open at times. And as a former slow receiver, like it is true. It takes a while to get going and things of that nature. And then one other one, I'd like to see what Emeka Ibuka and Luther Burden weigh in at. How tall are they? Just some like little things there with Burden. Is he a primary? I think Connor mentioned this on Stock Exchange, and I agree. Is he a full-time slot? Can he play outside? Is he big enough to play outside? Is he 5'9.5", 220? Is he 5'10.5", 195? Like where is he kind of end up? And what kind of athlete is he? Again, a guy, 2022 tape or 2023 tape's amazing. 24, all of last year was just kind of a mess. So again, just some names to watch out for. There'll be plenty more. We'll have plenty of coverage. Seems like the live show is pretty much sold out. If you haven't gotten your tickets, no better time because I'm pretty sure we're sold out, if not damn near close. We'll have more on the feed. I know Joe probably have his 12-pack or morning coffee. And again, we'll touch down in Indy in 48 hours from now and kind of go from there. But, appreciate everybody for listening. We'll talk to you guys soon and have some live coverage from Indy.